7 Worst Afflictions of Famous U.S. Presidents. 1. Grover Cleveland, oral cancer. In 1893, during his second term, Cleveland found a spot in his mouth. His doctor described it as nearly the size of a quarter, with cauliflower granulation. The official diagnosis was malignancy. Then Cleveland disappeared for 4 days. He announced he was taking a fishing trip. In fact, he was undergoing surgery aboard a yacht. Cleveland had 5 teeth and part of his jawbone removed. There was noticeable scarring, but the president's mustache concealed it. 2. JFK, chronic stomach and back pain. John F. Kennedy was a symbol of youth and vitality, but this was a carefully cultivated image. In reality, he lived in constant pain. JFK injured his back in 1937 while at Harvard. His father used his connections to get him into the Naval Reserve. John also had gastrointestinal issues as a child. They were later diagnosed as Addison's disease. As a result, Kennedy had hyperpigmentation. He also needed regular steroid treatments. 3. Franklin D. Roosevelt, polio. In 1921, at age 39, Roosevelt was diagnosed with polio. He worked hard to rehabilitate his body after being paralyzed. He needed a wheelchair to get around, but Roosevelt still wanted to project strength. The president came up with a walking routine. It involved leg braces, a cane, and an assistant's arm. Roosevelt forbade taking photos of him walking or being moved from his car. The Secret Service enforced this ban. 4. Woodrow Wilson, cerebrovascular issues. Wilson suffered his first stroke in 1896. He had another in 1913, the year he was inaugurated. The doctors thought he wouldn't live to finish his term, but he did. In April 1919, however, Wilson caught the Spanish flu. His administration reported it as a mere cold. In October, Wilson had another stroke that left him partially paralyzed. His wife Edith took over, effectively acting as president until 1921. 5. Chester A. Arthur, Bright's disease. A year after taking office, Arthur was diagnosed with a fatal kidney condition. His body was slowly poisoning itself. He suffered from great fatigue and possibly depression. Arthur passed away less than 2 years after leaving office. 6. Ronald Reagan, Alzheimer's disease. Reagan was diagnosed 5 years after leaving the White House, but his son Ron saw signs while Reagan was still president. An analysis of his language found variations, suggesting early dementia. Reagan had many close calls with death while in office. In 1981, he barely survived an assassination attempt. In 1985, he had multiple polyps removed from his colon. 2 years later, he had skin cancer removed from his nose. 7. Dwight D. Eisenhower, Crohn's disease. When Ike was elected, he was already suffering from abdominal adhesions. But this was just the beginning. In 1955, he had a heart attack. Doctors advised him not to run for re-election, which he ignored. Eisenhower was later diagnosed with Crohn's disease. He had surgery in 1956 and a stroke in 1957. Eisenhower managed to complete his term in office. Heart problems continued to plague him until his death in 1969.